I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Jorgensen,
Present.
Commissioner Wygand,
Present.
Commissioner Kaler,
Present.
Commissioner Crowley,
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
We're all here today on this cold winter night. Today is Wednesday, February 6th. The time is 7 p.m. and it's time for our normally scheduled City Commission meeting. We'll start with a special treat, the Pledge of Allegiance. The Boy Scouts are present this evening and they will present the colors. If we can all please rise.
Color guard advance. Guard opposed colors. Post colors. Salute.
Caleb, would you please lead us?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two. Okay. Color guard retreat.
All takers, I'm sorry, if we have the invocation led by Pastor Jessica Hanks with the First Baptist Church.
Would you bow with me in prayer? Holy God, we are grateful for this opportunity this evening to gather. And Lord, we ask for your presence in this place. Lord, that you would fill with your spirit a sense of wisdom and discernment as decisions are made in this place tonight, as discussions are held. Lord, that you would be present with us. We give you glory and honor and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Scouts, for presenting the colors. We have a presentation for you coming up. That moves us to item 6, the consent agenda, which includes the board and commission assignments. I'll briefly go through those. The Airport Advisory Board will be represented by Commissioner Crowley for the commission. The Library Board, the mayor is an ex officio member. The Chamber of Commerce, the Mayor Pro Tem Wygand is ex officio member. Franklin County Development Council will be represented by the mayor. The Kansas Municipal Energy Alliance by Commissioner Kaler. Ottawa Main Street Association Board by Mayor Pro Tem Wygand. Neighborhood Revitalization Committee by Commissioner Kaler. Ottawa Memorial Advisory Board by Commissioner Skidmore. The Play Task Force by Commissioner Crowley. And Prairie Paws Animal Shelter by Mayor Pro Tem Wygand. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd so move.
It's been moved and
Seconded.
seconded to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That moves us on to the regular agenda. Do we have any public comments this evening?
No one has registered.
All right, thank you. Then we'll dispense with that paragraph and move on to the declaration. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication that they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Crowley.
I'd like to declare that I will abstain on item 12 due to the conflict that it would have with my business.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move along. Moves us to item 10 of the agenda.
A proclamation recognizing February 3rd through 9th, 2019 as Boy Scout Week.
The Boy Scouts of America were incorporated on February 8th, 1910. Each year this anniversary is commemorated with Scout Week. Boy Scouts provide an educational program for boys and young adults to build character, to train in the responsibilities of participating citizenship, and to develop personal fitness. Members of the Ottawa Cub Scouts packs and Boy Scouts troops will accept the proclamation, which will be read by Commissioner Crowley.
And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Boy Scouting was founded in 1907 by British General Robert Baden-Powell, and whereas partially due to a selfless act of duty by a British boy forever known as the Unknown Scout, Scouting arrived in the United States on February 8, 1910. And whereas President Woodrow Wilson first proclaimed Boy Scout Week in 1919 in recognition of Scouts' service during World War I, and whereas throughout its rich history, Scouting has staunchly promoted loyalty, trustworthiness, and reverence towards God. And whereas for more than 100 years, Boy Scouts of America has provided training to youth and leadership development, service to others, and civic responsibility. And whereas many Ottawa youth have participated in Scouting programs and have gone on to become accomplished leaders serving our community and our country. And whereas the ideals of Scouting are alive and well today. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby proclaim February 3rd through the 9th, 2019 to be Boy Scout Week in the City of Ottawa, Kansas, and urges all citizens to join in celebrating and supporting Boy Scout programs and activities in our community. Signed the 6th day of February 2019 by our Mayor, Blake Jorgensen.
Okay. Could we have some representatives of the Scout come forward and accept this proclamation? Look over the camera. Any, the two of you like to say some words? Thank you.
I just wanted to say that thank you guys, and Scouting has been a big part of my life since 11 years old, and I just wanted to say thank you for recognizing the Boy Scouts, and thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Mr. Nowatzki?
Thank you. Again, thank you guys for recognizing this really good organization that the majority of us in the room are part of. It gives us an opportunity to live our lives to the best of our ability and to just be our best and do our duty to others and to God in like schools, churches, and pretty much anywhere.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think after the meeting, if you Scouts would like to stick around and have a group picture taken, we'll sure like to do that with you folks. That'll move us on to item 11.
Request for 2019 funding agreement.
We'll have our city manager, Richard Neinstead. This is for the approval of the funding agreement with the Ottawa Main Street Association.
So, Commissioners, this is, and public, this is the last of our community service agreements that we have for the year 2019. It is for the amount of $15,000. It is from January 1st through June 30th, and it details the services and the programs that we get from the Ottawa Main Street Association. They do a number of things downtown. First and foremost is their IWW grant program, which helps businesses in the Central Business District help fix up the facade of their businesses and that. So they've been a staple in our budget for a long time. I think the mayor served on the first Ottawa Main Street Board, so I would recommend to you that you approve that. And what will happen is that you'll approve that and we'll sign that, and then we'll send that over the Ottawa Main Street. And when they have their board meeting, they will consider it and hopefully approve it and sign it and return it back to us. And then we make a monthly allocation, so we'll retroactive that back to January 1st.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions? Or do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner?
I'll make a motion to approve item 11 that's on the agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the funding agreement as described by item 11. Is there any discussion?
I just might want to point out that individuals who may just be tuning in and have not watched our study session, that this agreement and every funding agreement that we have on the books currently for 2019 are available if they wish to review them.
Point well taken. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Wygant?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us to item 12 of the agenda.
Request for approval of ordinance outlining changes to licensing regulations.
These licensing regulations are for the general contractors, electricians, plumbers, and HVAC mechanics. This ordinance also repeals Ordinance 3970-18 and Chapter 6, Article 8 of Municipal Code. And Planning Director Wendy Lee will speak on this item.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, this the entire ordinance does pertain to all the contractors that you just mentioned, but specifically, we've only been discussing changing a few sections of that ordinance related to the trades contractors. This discussion began with you all last fall, late fall, but it had actually had some origins earlier, about a year before that. When we first came to you to look at this amendment, Jim Sherman was the chief building official. Since then, we've changed, and we have Terry Elmer, and so both of them had reviewed this proposal. We conducted a survey of contractors after you asked us to gather more information. The result of the survey, really specific to some of the changes, was really about a 50-50 result. 50% were supportive of the changes and 50% were not. You asked us then to gather some other data from other cities, and those that responded, some had this requirement, some were wanting something like this, but there were a number of them who didn't require it, who responded to our questions. There's been multiple conversations, both people who've come and testified it to you in support and in opposition, as well as it being on your agenda multiple times. As of Monday, you came to, it appeared, to a resolution in which you would place this item on the agenda today, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the previous if you have them.
Are there any questions for Ms. Lee? Do I hear a motion?
I think actually I do, and it's not a question. It's just I wish you would read what we actually decided on, because if you watched the study session, we did we did talk about this document several times, but I recognize that the public wasn't looking at the document. Okay. So if you could read what we've actually finished and decided on, that would be great before we make that motion.
Sure.
Second. The final, I'll just read the final.
Yes.
Okay. The final result was to delete what was formerly paragraph D, which read, "The holder of a city master's trade occupational license shall ensure apprentice laborers under the direct supervision and immediate presence of a master or journeyman. The contractor may have 2 apprentice laborers to 1 licensed master or journeyman on the job site." That was deleted in its entirety. What was paragraph E, this first sentence remains. "The holder of a city master's trades occupational license shall be fully responsible for works and acts of such journeyman, apprentice, and laborer employees." This next sentence was deleted, A master trades contractor shall work within the scope of an apprentice laborer when not working on systems as defined in definitions. Paragraph that was F now would read, because there were two different pieces that were struck within one sentence, but it would now read, any trades contractor must have a licensed person on the job site.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion that we go ahead and accept item number 12 as listed on the agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept item 12 as listed on the agenda. Is there any discussion?
I do just want to say something. I thought Sarah said it very well Monday, better than I'm going to say it now, but that we have spent about 2 months looking at this, studying this, talking to people outside of the survey that we had to look at as well. And it's not a decision we take lightly. We obviously, the better the decision, the more information you have, the better decision we'll be making. And so I feel very confident with the information that we put together, and I appreciate Commissioner Kaler for bringing that up Monday.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Abstain?
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That'll move us on to item 13.
Closing documents for United States Department of Agriculture, USDA Rural Development Loan.
This authorizes the mayor to sign a USDA Rural Development Form KS 1942 Guide 16, verifying the availability of city's $500,000 applicant contribution. The funds will be used for the installation of wastewater system at Proximity Park. And we'll have City Manager Richard Neinstead discuss this item.
So commissioners and public, as you know, we've been working towards getting sanitary sewer in at Proximity Park. And what we're doing now is working to get the financing before we have another federal government shutdown. So this is one document that needs to be done. We're putting $500,000 into that. You might wonder where that comes from. We did a bond issue, I believe a $5 million bond issue, 2017, late 2017. And those proceeds are put in an infrastructure account you see on your cash balances. And we have bought electric out of there for electric improvements for Proximity Park. We paid for the water line out of there, and it was also for sanitary sewer improvements. So the $500,000 actually comes will be matched out of that pool with, I believe, $1.7 million from USDA. So when you sign that form, that says we have the money, it's on hand, we're ready to go. And then we have several other forms which we're trying to schedule a meeting now with USDA, with our bond counsel, with our city attorney and city clerk, a couple other folks, director of utilities, to get the last of the paperwork done, because so that they can tell us to go ahead and put this out to bid.
Okay. Are there any questions for Richard?
This from USDA, is it a loan? It is a loan.
It's
At
a
a
loan.
lower interest than the bond
It is.
issue.
It's a loan and longer term
It's a
also.
longer term.
Okay.
And
Any further
it's
questions?
under their community improvement program.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the closing documents for the USDA Rural Development Loan.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the documents as described in item 13. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That'll move us to item 14 of the agenda.
Appointment to KMEA Board of Directors.
Appointment of Director Number 1 to serve on Board of Directors of the Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, KMEA, for a 2-year term. And we'll have City Manager Nineset speak on this one item as well.
So, Commissioners, this is a 2-year term. We belong to Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, which is a consortium of cities that have electric utilities. And they aid us in a lot of things. They aid us in infrastructure improvements. They aid us in talking to federal and state regulatory agencies. And part of their bylaws are that we need a representative from the elected governing body. And for the past, I believe, 4 years, Commissioner Kaler has served in that position. Former Commissioner Linda Reed did before her, and former Commissioner Rocky Fleer did before her. So Commissioner Kaler's indicated that she would not mind being reappointed to that. So that's what our recommendation would be to you.
Okay. Any questions for City Manager Nineset on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion that we do appoint Commissioner Kaler to this board.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Commissioner Kaler to the KMEA Board of Directors. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Jorgensen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That'll move us to the report by the City Manager.
I'll just stay up here. So, Commissioners, I don't have too much. Today, Director of Utilities, Dennis Tharp, and I were up in Topeka for the KMU Day at the Capitol meeting. It was interesting driving up, but Dennis did the driving, I did the navigating, and we did just fine. And we came back a little early based upon the weather report. But some of the things we did were Dennis and I were able to be on the floor of the House of Representatives this morning and see Representative Finch at work as Speaker Pro Tem, and see former City Commissioner Emily Graves, who serves as his Chief of Staff. And after that, we went to lunch with our legislators. KMU had a lunch. And then we met down at the Cyrus Hotel, which is the newest hotel in downtown Topeka. And this was the first event that they had down there since they opened up. And we heard a number of legislative leaders, including Representative Finch again. So it was an interesting day. Most of the discussion was on utilities and what the potential legislation is. Most of it is not really good, and we'll get you that information as it comes to us. But it's early in the session. A lot of things can change. And that's part of what KMU, Kansas Municipal Utilities, does for cities that have utilities, is monitor that legislation. So that's my report.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. We'll move on to reports by city commissioners. We'll start over here on my left. Commissioner Skidmore.
Yeah, just briefly, I just failed to mention, I want to appreciate Wendy Lee and her department, all the information you provided us for on that licensing regulations issue. So thank you, Wendy, for all your work on that. That's all I really have.
Okay. Commissioner Wygand.
I have no report. I could echo Mike on these. We did work hard. We worried about them, thought about them, talked about them, with the goal being to make it the least intrusive, the easiest to work in the city of Ottawa that we can, and we just hope it works out.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaler.
None at this time.
Commissioner Crowley. Okay. We'll move on to reports by the mayor. I'd just like to point out, if you have not heard, and we're planning on attending the cultural breakfast on Zimbabwe tomorrow morning. It has been canceled, subject to being rescheduled. More than likely, it'll be the first week of March, but stay tuned, and you'll find out more information on that. The next study session of the City Commission will be on Monday, the 11th. And our next regular meeting will be at 9:30 a.m. on February 20th. Is there anything further that should come before this meeting today? If not, we will stand adjourned. Thank you. And Scouts, if you'd like to come on up, and we'd like to have our picture taken with you.